Welcome to point channel. So today I will discuss the differences between a component scan and entity scan and enable JPA repository annotations. Yeah. So without wasting time, let's jump into the coding part. Yeah. If you see here, I have just created one demo project just some time before. Here, if you see left side, okay, you can so this particular project. Okay. So this is just a project which deals with simple CRUD operations. Okay, so here if you see, this is just my main class in which I have at the rate Spring Boot application. Okay, so now first I will discuss about at the rate component scan. Okay, so as everybody knows, at the rate Spring Boot application is a combination of three annotations. Okay, so that is component scan and enable auto configuration. Okay, uh, sorry, enable auto configuration and Spring Boot configuration. So these three annotations, right? So now. So here this component scan, okay, will scan all the classes which are available in this particular package. Okay, that package name is com.springboot.examples. Why? Because I have defined my main class in this com.springboot.examples, and it will also scan all the sub packages also. So then it will detect the classes which are annotated with at the rate component, at the rate controller, at the rate rest controller, at the rate service, at the rate repository. So all these stereotype annotations it will detect, and it will create their those bean instances and register with the application context. So this is the job of at the rate component scan. However, I want to highlight one more point here. So at the rate component scan will detect this at the rate repository classes, which are custom repository classes. But whereas in the case of Spring Boot Data JPA or Spring Data JPA, usually we define repository interfaces, not the classes. So in that case, at the rate component scan will not detect your repository interfaces. Okay, so this is about at the rate component scan. So now, so let me start this particular application. Okay, so always it is a good practice to define your main class, in a package in which all your uh, all your other classes should be defined in the sub packages. So this is a recommended practice. So here, that's why if you see here, I have config sub package, controller sub package, entity, repository, exception, service. So all these are sub packages, so that your at the rate component scan, whenever it scans this root package, that is com.springboot.examples, so it will have a visibility to go through all your sub packages, and happily it will create the bean instances and register with the application context. Okay, so this is about at the rate component scan. So now, as I said sometime before, at the rate component scan will not scan or will not detect at the rate repository classes, right? That's what. Then in that case, who will detect at the rate repository interfaces? In our cases, we have interfaces, right? So we define some interface which extends either JP repository or CRUD repository, right? So then the answer for that question is, okay, here if you see, my application has been started successfully. Okay, and okay, here if you see, I have an employee entity. Okay, if you see, since I have started the server successfully, here employee table is also created. Here when I retrieve the records, there are no records. So just to make sure, my application is working fine or not. Okay, I'm just hitting one post request. Here if you see, okay, see, employee record has been created. Even I will show in the workbench also. I'm just fetching that created record. Here you can see that created record. So that means my application is working fine. So now I will explain you. Okay, so how it has internally scanned, entities and repositories. So here if you see, uh, here if you see, uh, yeah. So here, yeah. So during the server startup, here you can clearly observe at the rate enable auto configuration was declared on a class in the package com.springboot.examples. Here you can see examples. So automatic at the rate repository and at the rate entity scanning is enabled. So now at the rate enable auto configuration will take care of this automatic scanning of classes which are annotated with at the rate entity, and similarly it will also take care of repository interfaces. So repository interfaces in the sense, so at the rate enable auto configuration will create the implementation class of those your repository interfaces dynamically, which will act as a proxy. Okay, and similarly at the rate enable auto configuration will detect the classes which are annotated with the at the rate entity. Okay, so and it will make sure those classes will be used as part of JPA persistence context. So these are the two tasks which will be done by at the rate enable auto configuration. So now since your entities and repositories are available in your sub packages of com.springboot.examples package, which is a root package, so that's why at the rate enable auto configuration has got the visibility to your entities and repositories. So that's why it has happily created you know happily detected those entity classes and repository interfaces. So by that way your application uh, is working fine as expected. So here if you see, I will also show one more proof. Okay. um, yeah. So here if you see just below line, scanning of JPA repositories in the package com.springboot.examples, and here you can see one more line, finished JPA Spring data repository scanning in 124 224 milliseconds. Okay, found one JPA repository interface. So, I mean, during the server startup, it has printed all the debug statements. So it is evident that at the rate enable auto configuration has detected your repository interfaces and entity classes. Okay, so that's why we have not added, no at the rate entity scan, no at the rate enable JPA repository. Okay. So now the next question arises. So then, in which scenario, in which case we are supposed to add at the rate entity scan and at the rate enable JPA repositories? Okay. So the answer for that question is okay. So here, okay. So let me stop my server. Okay. Okay. So now I'm just moving entity and repository. Okay, to some other package. So here if you see, yeah, so for demonstration purpose I have already created one more new package. It's a just empty package. Here if you see entity.repository.pack. Okay, so I'm just moving only my entities and repositories sub package to this new package. So here if you see entity.repository.pack. Okay, so now in this case obviously if I if I start the server, obviously it will fail, right? Why? Because at the rate enable auto configuration will not have any visibility to your entities and repositories. Just now I just moved those entities and repositories to the new package, right? So now in this scenario, uh, we need to specify the location of your entities and repositories where you moved your entities and repositories. So for that, what we need to do? So entity scan. Okay. So here you need to give your package name. Okay. So here if you see entity dot repository dot pack. Okay. Pack dot entity. Okay. So similarly, you need to give one more annotation, that is at the rate enable JPA repositories. Okay. So here also you need to give the respective package. So the package name here is entity dot repository dot pack dot repository. Yeah. So now what happens? Okay, at the rate enable auto configuration will scan this root package com.springboot.examples, and by that way it will not detect your entities and repositories. Why? Because they are not available in this root package. Now it will start scan for entities at this particular location, that is entity.repository.scan.entity. Then since they are available in this package, so it will detect your entity classes and it will make use of those classes for a JPA persistence context. Okay. Similarly, at the rate enable JPA repositories, I mean, it will go through this particular package entity.repository.pack.repository, and it will happily, identify your repository interfaces, and it will create a dynamic implementation of those interfaces. So now if I start, my application, so it will work how it used to work earlier. So here, if you search enable, yeah. So here, if you see at the rate enable auto configuration, okay, same thing was declared in a class com dot in a package com dot spring boot dot examples, and automatic at the rate entity scanning is enabled. Okay, so here, um, okay, I will type this repository dot here. So here, if you see, uh, yeah, so scanning for here you can see scanning for JPA repositories in the package entity.repository.pack.repository, and here also if you can also see finished Spring Data repository scanning, okay, in 231 milliseconds found one JPA repository interface. So it is evident that okay, by writing these two annotations at the rate entity scan at the rate enable JPA repositories, so it was able to identify your entity classes and repository interfaces. So see, now application is started successfully. So here you can see application is started. Uh, yeah, and it was started. Yeah, it is started. Okay. So even I can refresh here. See, there are no records. Okay. Even I hit one request just to make sure it is working fine or not. Okay. So yeah, it has created the record. Even I can show you. See, my application is working fine, right? So uh, yeah, I hope you understand the context. Okay, when we are supposed to use at the rate component scan and at the rate entity scan and at the rate enable JP repositories. So now here I will also cover one more scenario. Okay, so that scenario is okay. So in real time, okay, sometimes your multiple applications will talk to one common database. So in that case, it doesn't make any sense to keep entities and repositories in each and every application, right? So then, as a best practice, usually we separate those entities and repositories from each and every application, and we just create one more a common project or common module kind of thing. So there we keep your entities and repositories. So that will act as a dependent jar kind of thing. So then we just include that dependent jar in all your applications. So by that way, your applications will refer those entities and repositories which are available in that common dependent jar. Okay, so I just want to mimic this kind of scenario so that it would be useful for you when you are doing in your real time. Okay, so if you see, this is my dependent jar. Okay, so okay, so here if you see, I have one package common.entity.scan, so in which I just maintained only entity and repositories package. Okay, the same I mean the same classes. I mean, I'm just maintaining here one more dependent jar. Okay, here if you see, um, so this is also kind of a Spring Boot application. So this is just a main class in which we have Spring Boot application, right? At the rate Spring Boot application. So now, in order to refer the entities and repositories which are available in this common dependent jar, obviously first we need to add, this dependent jar in your main application, right? So here, if you see, yeah. So sometime before I have already added here, you can see this is a dependency. Okay, you can see this is a dependency Spring Boot dot entity scan dot dependency, right? So now. Um, So how to refer these entities? So there are three possible solutions. Okay, solution number one is the same thing which we just implemented. That is usage of at the rate entity scan and at the rate enable JP repositories. So here, okay, I will just show you what would be the solution number one. Okay, so here if you see, Solution number one. Okay. So instead of referring the entities and repositories which are available in this particular package, so now I am going to refer the entities and repositories which are available in my common dependent jar. So here, what is the package name? Common.entity.scan, right? So here, what I need to give, yeah, common.entity.scan, right? So similarly, yeah, here also we need to give common.entity.scan, right? So yeah, I'm just starting. So ideally, it should refer entities and repositories now from the common dependent jar, right? So let's see. Yeah, so here if you see, uh, yeah, here you can see scanning of the JPA repositories in the package common.entity.scan.repository. Okay, so here you can also see finished scanning JPA repository. Okay, in 148 milliseconds found one JPA repository. So that means it was able to detect entities and repositories from your common dependent jar. Okay, so here you can see application is also started successfully. Uh, oh, one second, something went wrong. No qualifying bean of entity.repository.pack. Okay, repository, employee repository available. Okay, exported at least one bean which qualifies as auto wire. Okay, so here, um, so no qualifying bean of entity.repository.pack. So here, if you see, yeah. So this is our entity.repository.pack. Um, Yeah, so the reason for this failure is if you see here, my employee service IMPL is referring to this particular package entity.repository.pack. Okay, so this is nothing but here, entity.repository.pack is there, right? So now if you see, our main application. So here, I have started pointing to this common.entity.scan, right? So this particular package is located in my common module, right? So now we need to change the package names in our employee service MPL. So if you come here, okay, so this is employee service MPL, right? So here, instead of pointing to this particular package, it is supposed to point to this one, common.entity.scan. Okay, so yeah, and after that, one second, um, where is my repository? Yeah, this one. Yeah, common.entity.scan. Okay, so before that, we need to enable the dependency. So I just disabled again. Okay, let me uncomment. Uh, yeah, so then it will detect those packages. Okay, so this is good. This is good. Okay. Yeah, so this is not required. I'm just removing. Okay, yeah, so now we are good. So now if you see from my employee service MPL, now I am started pointing to employee and employee repository uh, from this common module. Here you can see this is also common.entity.scan, right? So that's why we have given, in our main application also, I have given the same package for entity scan and as well as enable JP repositories, right? Now let me start my application. So this is solution number one. Okay. Yeah, it will take a while. So meanwhile, I will show you the workbench. Okay, so here if you see, we don't have employee table. Okay, let me refresh. Nothing is there, right? Now during the server startup, it will create an employee table in the database. Yeah, yeah. Meanwhile, I will show you common dot entity dot. Yeah, here you can see now it started scanning in our common dot entity dot scan. So here you can see clearly scanning for JPA repositories in the package common dot entity dot scan dot repository. Okay, and here also you can see finished scanning data repository scanning in 157 milliseconds, found one JPA repository interface. So now it is evident that it started scanning, common dot entity dot scan package, which is available in my common module kind of thing, right here. So yeah, so server is started now. Here if you uh, see employee table is also created properly. Okay, I will hit one sample request just to make sure my application is working fine. Yeah, so here see it has created employee record. It was a post call, so I will show you in the database. See, employee record is created, so that means my solution is working fine. See, right? So this is a solution number one. So with the help of @entity scan and @enable JPA repositories, so we can refer entities and repositories which are located in common module. So now now let me stop once again. Okay, so here now solution number two I will show you. Solution number two. Yeah. So here solution number two is with the help of component scan. So here, yeah, here what we need to do. So here if you see I'm passing com.springboot.examples. See why? Because if we don't give at the rate component scan, then only it will by default it will scan all the you know classes which are available in this root package com.springboot.examples. But as soon as you start using at the rate component scan, so then we are supposed to explicitly pass this package. So right, this particular package comma, so now I want to pass this package common.entity.scan, which is available in common module. So common.entity.scan. Okay. So now what's happening? Let me start my server. Okay. So now what happens, so it will scan this particular package and it will also scan common.entity.scan, right? Now anyhow within the common.entity.scan we have entity and repository, but it will not detect your entities and repositories. Why? Because the @, component scan will not be able to detect your entities and repositories. That's what I mean I have shared sometime before, right? So now how come it is working fine? Now the answer for that question is here. If you see, we have a main class right in the common module which has Spring Boot application. So if you expand this one here, you can see components can enable auto configuration Spring Boot configuration, right? So here if you see Spring Boot configuration, this is nothing but a configuration. Again, if you see configuration, so this is annotated with component, right? So now component scan will detect all the classes which are annotated with component, right? So by that way it has identified this particular configuration, right? So now Spring Boot application is also having enable auto configuration, right? So this is important. Enable auto configuration will come into picture now. So now and enable auto configuration will start scanning this common.entity.scan. So by that way it will detect your entities and repositories and your application will smoothly starts working. So here if you see, um, again application is started successfully. So now again I will show you. See, this is the database. Okay, so here there are no records. Okay, in front of you. Okay, I am just waiting one sample request. Yeah, so here, yeah, record is created successfully. Now here if you see, see record is created. So this is solution number two. Okay, now the solution number three is okay, I'm stopping the server. Okay, so here if you see, um yeah, so Let me comment this. Now solution number three is solution number three is you know we need to import. Okay, import what we need to import. Okay, this particular one. So yeah, so here if you see dot class, yeah. So let me start meanwhile. Yeah. So what I'm doing, okay. So in the common module, we have a main class which is annotated with Spring Boot application, right? So this is also kind of configuration, right? So why? Because here if you see, we have Spring Boot configuration, right? So this is nothing but configuration, right? So here you can see. So that means what? I mean, we are trying to import, common modules configuration into our main applications configuration. So I'm just importing. So as soon as you import, what happens, when you go here, okay, again at the rate Spring Boot application, okay, here, enable auto configuration, again, it will come into picture again, enable auto configuration, you know, so it will detect your entities and repositories which are available in common.entity.scan. So by that way, again, your main application will happily detect your entities and repositories which sorry, which are available in common.entity.scan. So now again application is started successfully. So again I will show you just to make sure my solution number three is also working fine or not. Okay, see, there are no records. um, so every time it will create a brand new employee table. That's what I'm trying to say here. Okay, so here whenever, I mean, when I fire a sample request, see, employee record is created successfully. Now here I will show you, see, the record is there. So that means all three solutions are working fine. Now it's up to you which solution you are going to adopt to refer entities and repositories which are located in common module kind of thing. Okay, so here I just stopped the server. Okay, so here let me minimize this. Okay, so here if you see, so yeah, just I want to give you a recap. See, these are the solution number one. Solution number one. So with the help of entity scan and enable JPA repositories, I'm able to refer entities and repositories which are located in common module. So next solution number two is at the rate component scan. Okay, I have started scanning my current root package, that is nothing but com.springboot.examples. Okay, then after that the particular package common.entity scan. Okay, that is from this common module. Okay, so by that way internally it has identified this configuration class. Then again enable auto configuration came into picture and it has identified this entity and repository. Okay, this is solution number two. And solution number three is, okay, I am just importing common modules configuration into my main module configuration. So by that way here if you see at the rate Spring Boot application, again here enable auto configuration will come into picture and it will start scanning this particular common.entity scan. So by that way it will detect your entities and repositories. So these are the three available solutions. So in real time usually we will come across this type of scenario. So that's why I just want to cover this particular scenario also as part of this particular topic. Okay, so yeah, so here if you see yeah, so this is my presentation. So here you can pause and go through this particular useful information if you want. So here entity scan, what exactly enable JP repository. So these are the three possible solutions, right? So yeah, that's it I want to share with you. So yeah, if you really like my video, please like and share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.